Black men need to understand that no one cares that you're mistreated, marginalized, or ignored in the media today. For the last 30 years, I've been hearing black men complain that whenever a black man is cast in a movie starring white people, that it's guaranteed the black guy is definitely going to get killed before the end. Black males today act like this is something new, but it's been going on since I was a child. This is nothing new for Hollywood. It's just business as usual. Now, it's understandable that no one likes to see themselves being so blatantly disrespected in front of the whole world. But the problem here is that black men have no regard for how the game is played. Hollywood treats black men like trash, and the reason they do it isn't just because the movie industry is controlled by whites. It's because black men haven't shown Hollywood that we will make an alternative to them. As long as black men demonstrate that we're happy to just be customers of the movie, they will continue to portray black males as throwaway characters. The only way you're going to change this dynamic is by making your own productions and showing Hollywood that even though what you're doing won't pull in the massive numbers that their stuff will, you don't have to sit there and pay to see a movie that's only going to disrespect you. It's childish and pointless for black men to continue to whine about how Hollywood denigrates us when they've literally been doing it since birth of a nation. Black men have a welfare mentality bred into them by their mammies of the housing projects. Just like their single mother mamas, they're waiting for white people to bring them their daily bread and to give them movies that will praise and uplift them. And that notion is as foolish as believing that you can send your son to a class full of white children and that his teacher is going to educate him just like she does all the white kids. No white person is ever going to teach your child how to compete and potentially beat their own children. And no white industry is going to give you movies that motivate you to think better of yourself. You are not going to see a movie made by them with white dollars where white people are looking to a black man to save them. That's not the way that power works. The white movie industry has no respect for black men, and quite frankly, you haven't given them any reason to. If you're not willing to challenge their power, then you shouldn't be so stupid as to think they're going to give you any. When you show them that there's money to be made in movies with strong and intelligent black male characters in the lead, then you'll see Hollywood breaking the bank to produce those kinds of movies. But don't expect them to take the lead on that. That's going to be your job. Someone asked me recently about how black men are marginalized on the hit TV show The Walking Dead. Now, I'm not a person who watches a lot of television, and I found The Walking Dead to be downright unwatchable the one time I did try to see it. But the first thing that struck me was how cheap the show was. While I understand that legendary film director Frank Darabont was making the first season, I find their reported budget of $2 to $3 million per episode to be unbelievable based on what I'd seen, with the exception of scenes that may require a large number of zombies and cast members. I don't see why any person with a Canon 5D camera couldn't replicate just about anything I've seen on that show with near perfect accuracy. And the sad thing is that there's no shortage of self-made independent YouTube filmmakers who've done exactly that. They got a DSLR camera and made their own zombie short films. Granted, it's not the best movie making, but that's not the point. The point is that I am always seeing black males talking about how much they like The Walking Dead, but clearly they have no intention of leaving the plantation and actually initiating their own production. And this is the reason that women like Issa Rae and Shonda Rhimes lord over you and make you look like a subservient dog class to matriarchy. The reason that ABC made a deal to lock down Shonda Rhimes is because it was clear that she was smart enough and creative enough that she would at some point be doing exactly what Tyler Perry is doing and make her own production company to compete against the television networks. So they bought into her talents to keep her from competing against them. Not surprisingly, Issa Rae was recruited by Shonda Rhimes and the TV networks after the success of her online series Awkward Black Girl. Once these women showed the TV networks that they were ready and willing to make a series of their own, then the corporations showed up and have been very cooperative with these women's vision of how black women are supposed to be portrayed. Did you get that? The women didn't wait for a white man to get jungle fever and give them a series. They got moving and shaking on their own. Now, how many black men are making their own series starring a black man? And that's the point. Black men look weak and pathetic because we are expecting white men at white studios to take the white money that they got from white customers and spend it to help black men. We treat everything like welfare, or worse, a civil right. Wake up! You have a civil right to get hired at a movie studio. You have no civil right to be the lead actor at a movie studio. Everyone else on earth gets this concept except for black men. But this is because black men are now happy to be the pets of every other ethnic group, and this is what makes us beg and complain about what other people aren't donating to us. But other people don't have sympathy because they can see clearly that if they could do it, then you have no excuse. Last year, there was a great Japanese anime called Attack on Titan. It's a fantasy tale about how the world has been overrun by giants called Titans, and all of humanity has been wiped out, except for one city where the last remnants of the world's populations have come to hide out. As I watched, I noticed that practically all of the characters were white, except for one Asian girl. And not surprisingly, in this place you could supposedly find all the cultures of the world, except one. There wasn't a single black person in the entire series. Not even a throwaway character. In this Japanese universe, black people don't even exist. At first I took slight umbrage to such an obvious slight, but then I reconsidered. After all, power does not respect weakness. Power respects power. And since black people haven't even shown we are willing to hold the first supposed black president accountable, how can we feel we can hold a cartoon to a higher standard than a president that we put in office twice who refuses to even acknowledge our existence? I realize that including a black character in their tale of saving the world isn't the responsibility of the creators of Attack on Titan. Telling the best story for their customer base is their job. Telling a story that includes black characters is our job. As black people, we are the ones who are supposed to tell our story. And that highlights another issue. How silly can you be to expect a non-black person to competently tell a story of a black character? How many times have you seen movies like Training Day, Blade, or just about any Cuba Gooding Jr. movie and said to yourself, there's no way a black man would be doing something like that? Well, it shouldn't surprise you, because black men didn't write the story. These are whites and Asians who are struggling to see the world through a black man's eyes, when in reality they have no frame of reference. So even if they were so inclined to do so, they could probably tell a pretty good story, but would it be the same as when you saw Malcolm X or the spook who sat by the door? Creating your people's media image isn't something that you outsource to other people. It's something that you take complete and total control of and guard jealously. You don't see the Japanese asking for white Hollywood to come in and make Attack on Titan or any other Japanese creation. They take care of that themselves. You don't see India or China begging Hollywood to be their theatrical saviors either. Black men look just plain pathetic, endlessly capitulating about how white men are treating them in Hollywood when they've been doing it since the first frame of film went into the first camera. So what's stopping black men from writing their own stories? Well, first off, there's a language barrier. By that I mean black men have put a barrier in front of language. Black men have made it some type of sick badge of honor to pride themselves on being totally incapable of wielding a language properly. Yes, that's the black male today. You know, the guys who tell you that speaking proper English is for white folks. If you can't speak the language with full proficiency, what makes you think you will ever be able to write a coherent story? So speaking proper English may be for whites, but speaking slave English, which is all ebonics and ghetto slang is for dummies and the weak. And before anyone tries to argue it, the English language isn't the issue. If these lazy reprobates were so concerned with language, they would have learned an African language and be writing great literature in an African tongue. But oops, they haven't done that either. So the truth is, writing is something that most black men have devalued. This is why the most the black community has to show as far as writing is Zane and a bunch of hood novels. White people have Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings and tons of black fans. But black people don't have any knowledge how to write a novel about ancient Africa. There are all these people complaining about the movie Gods of Egypt being nothing but white people. But the truth is, how good of a story about Egypt could those whiners and moaners make on their own? And we won't even get into compelling dialogue. We have to remind them that no one in ancient Kemet would say, "What's up, cuz?" In other words, you would have to give us an intelligent conversation between two black people that didn't come from the hood in North America. I see a lot of you find that to be a tall order already. For the one or two black men listening who are actually tired of looking like gutless cowards, I'm going to tell you how you can stop being a whiner and start being a winner. Let's discuss how you can build your own media empire. First, you don't need a major corporation and a TV deal. The three major things you need are true creativity, some camera equipment, and a social network account. Now, when it comes to true creativity, this is the one that may be hardest for most of you. The TV show The Walking Dead is applauded by its audiences due to its great writing and its great concept. Being a great writer is like being a great singer. Thousands of people think they have enough talent to win American Idol, but as we all see, most of these people are totally clueless to the fact that they may not be horrible at singing, but their musical ability isn't so special that someone would pay money to hear them. The same goes for writing. Just because you don't need a spell check doesn't mean you can write an interesting story. The best way to find out if you have the ability to write a story that's worthy of going into production is you should write a short story, one of no more than 5 to 8 pages, like a short anthology you would find in Aesop's Fables, and send it to 4 people you know and tell them that a friend of yours is entering a writing contest and wanted to know which story was best to submit. That should be all you need. Because if you aren't able to get someone hooked with a 5-page story, you'd be mentally deranged to think they will sit through 500 pages of your writing. Find out if you've actually got any writing ability at all, or if you're just a legend in your own mind. Now that you have a story or a creative concept worthy of being written about, and you think you're ready to take on Issa Rae or The Walking Dead, you now need to create a test pilot series that you can upload online. As I've stated before, a DSLR would be the best way to accomplish this for a beginning filmmaker. The Canon 5D is the standard and will run you around $2,000 to $2,500. You can buy a CFL lighting setup for around $700 a piece, and you can get a directional shotgun microphone for recording your actor's audio for between $100 to $200. Rode mics are the standard for indie shooting, but if you want something more expensive, there are other models available. You'll also need a digital recorder, so an Olympus or a Tascam digital recorder will be fine to hook up your microphone to. Now you'll need to manually set the camera for even exposure and ISO. You can hire any photographer or first-year film student. Won't cost you more than $100 to get them to spend 15 minutes showing you how to manually calibrate your camera. It's not rocket science. There are also dozens of videos on YouTube that you can consult for yourself. But you do not want to use the automatic camera settings because those will be too grainy. But don't worry, you'll see what I mean after you get your camera. Now you've gone out and kidnapped a few of your friends who are already practically zombies and dressed them up like real zombies so you can finally show Walking Dead who's boss. Now that you've shot a couple of short episodes, how do you get the masses to like it? Now in the old days you'd hire an agent, but in today's world people who rely on the same studio practices that evolved organically over a century ago are about as state-of-the-art as traveling by hot air balloon. Today, you don't have to pay for expensive magazine, radio, and TV advertising to get a project off the ground. All you need is to be on Twitter, Facebook, and all the other social networks, and you need to interact with people to get your friends list as big as you possibly can. Put up your video on YouTube, and it won't take long for the people to tell you if you have something worth seeing or not. If people like it, they'll pass it around, and people will come looking for you. Just ask Issa Rae and Tariq Nasheed. And don't forget, YouTube even allows you to let people rent episodes of your content if you want, or you can sell physical copies on your own site. There are plenty of options available for you to make your own shows and movies. They won't have the most spectacular budgets or the flashiest special effects, and won't rake in millions of dollars. But for the truly creative and determined, it's what will start a revolution at the grassroots level. And best of all, you will finally get to see yourself, a black man, who isn't portrayed as a slave, a butler, or the first person to be sacrificed to Jason Voorhees, Jaws, or whatever monster that Hollywood tosses you into the mouth of to make the bad guy look more menacing. As I've said, we have plenty of options. The only option you no longer have is the option of the world being lenient with you for not producing your own material. The world has lost its patience for black men with their hands out. Black men are the best hustlers in the world, and it's a disgrace to see men who always brag about how they can figure out a way to make $1 on any day start shuffling their feet and making excuses for why they can't shoot a 2-minute video. Up until now, we've been lucky. Up to this point, the rest of the world is giving black men throwaway roles in their movies. But soon, you'll see them simply write black men out of their movies and TV shows altogether. As a matter of fact, they're already doing this. But what I mean is that there won't be any shows on TV anywhere with any black man on them at all. Now, you can keep telling yourself that one day these people are going to find religion and treat their movie studios like a soup kitchen and give you a free meal, or you can do what a black man is supposed to do and get up and hustle for yours. But there are no excuses, and no one wants to hear your whining about what people aren't giving you anymore. Power isn't given. Power is taken. Get a camera. Get a script. Get some guts. And start taking yours.